today, we're going to take a different approach to talking about fitness and health.
You are so much more capable than you think you are, but you'll never find that true peak of what you're capable of doing, whether it's through God or your body, unless you get out there and work.
I read the statistic, I cannot remember where, do not ask me, but it said something like 36 to 52% of people make a New Year resolution that has to do with either fitness or health. And by the time March has rolled around, they have already failed at it. Now, I don't know about you guys, but for me personally, that resonates so well. I know this for myself. And that's why today we're going to take a different approach to talking about fitness and health. But before we do that, I want to say MessyLifeTalk is new. And the best way that you can support us is literally by clicking all the buttons. Subscribe, like, share, do it all. We are on YouTube. We are on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, X. We are everywhere on social media, and we need you guys to support us, and not just support us, but join in, interact with us, become part of the community. Now, if you want to check out our website, it is MessyLifeMinistry.com. But if you're doing anything on social media, please put in MessyLifeTalk. Messy Life Ministry is a place where you can come ask questions, and it is just the big umbrella of where everything is following and on. Well, now that I've said that, and I know you guys are going to be hitting all the buttons for us, I want to ask you a question. Is there a funny story that you have talking about the gym or fitness, or maybe share a story with us this week? Something that happened recently that kind of kept you from the gym. Who knows? Well, I did decide that I wanted not just you guys to share jokes with me, but I was going to come up with one on my own. So, Chad, here's my joke. Why did the Scarecrow become a successful personal trainer?
Why?
Because he's excellent in his field. Get it?
Okay. I get it. Yeah.
All right. That was my bad mom joke. I know. But you know what? We all have to have them sometimes. So, I don't know about you guys, but we have all been told at least one time in our life that taking care of our body is really important. And if you have spent more than a minute in the church, you've heard at least once that, our bodies is the temple of the Holy Spirit. But how often do we really consider that our physical fitness could actually be affecting, enhancing, or decreasing our spiritual life? I really want you to think about it. So we have these things that kind of transition into both of them. Discipline, perseverance, and humility. You need discipline to be consistent. And perseverance, you got to be able to have that to push yourself past, what you did last week. And humility. I know this one personally because for us females, sometimes it's difficult to even get started. And it takes a lot of humility to get in there and start from, where we're at. That's why I want to unpack this whole topic with some insights from fitness expert Chad Currie, which I have the honor of saying he is also my brother, yes. And he's single, ladies, just to let you know. But he's been doing this for a while, and he's now going to school and getting his degree and really making it a career for himself. And I'll be happy to share a little bit of my personal journey with you, but before I do that, I have to preference with this. I am nowhere near where I want to be with my fitness, but I'm also nowhere near where I used to be. And so that's a really good thing for myself. So before we even get started, I think we need to kind of, talk about the meats and the potatoes, or should I say the protein shakes and the salads of today's discussion. And let me introduce you to Chad. He is the oldest of my two younger brothers. Most of you have already met Chase. And Chad right now is in school to be what again?
Dietitian.
Dietitian. Okay. I never say it right.
Kinesiology is for muscles, dietitian is for food. So those are two different things.
Yeah. And you're doing both, correct?
Right now, I'm just doing dietitian. Might do grad school. Might do grad school and do both in grad school. But as of right now, I'm just going to stick with dietitian, mainly because I'm old and 4 degrees sounds like a lot at my age.
Okay. Well, I do know this. When we were growing up, we didn't have the internet. And our moms she was really good about kicking us out of the house and forcing us to go outside and play. And so I think a lot, from what I've seen, a lot of our real struggles for you came after you served in the military. I think that's really where your fitness challenge started, was when you became a former Marine, because you're never an ex, as you always tell me. And I also think that's where it's going to really resonate with a lot of people today, is people coming out of the military service, they tend to really struggle with fitness and health because they go from being forced into being consistent, being forced into discipline, to all of a sudden they got to figure out how to fit it into their everyday lives on their own. And I just want you to start there. I want you to start with where you started your struggle in fitness and health.
So I'm actually going to surprise you a little bit. I've always struggled my whole life. I've always seen myself as the chubby kid, and I remember distinctly as a young kid always being bullied as being the fat guy, the chubby kid. Now, maybe looking back, I can honestly say they bullied me for that because they saw it got to me. Or honestly, it really may have been somewhat true too. We're not a small family by any means of the word. So people's idea, especially in the 80s and 90s when we were growing up, of healthy was bean poles and rails and skinny people. Just go watch a 90s movie and you can see. And unfortunately, culture does influence both for men and women our perception of what healthy should look like. So my journey, I've never been comfortable with my shirt off around people. I hope you remember me swimming with a shirt on as a kid.
I guess because I was so busy worrying about myself, I didn't think I really paid attention, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I understand. For me, it was that. Like, I've never been, and to this day, I'm not the guy that's going to take his shirt off at the gym. I don't care how much progress I've made in my fitness journey. I'm not the guy that's comfortable going to the beach and walking around without a shirt. In my head, my body dysmorphia is telling me I jiggle, jiggle, jiggle. And it just does not, I don't want to.
You don't jiggle. But okay, yes.
I've always struggled. I have. Now, I do know now, most of it's because we were raised on a farmer's diet and we were not farmers. We did have the benefit of going out and playing all the time, so there was some baseline health we had there. But coming out of the military, it is a struggle. It's easy to be healthy. It's easy to be fit-ish when someone makes you and they don't give you a choice. Unfortunately for me, over these decades that I've been out of the military now, almost at least over 1 decade now, I've realized the military has no clue how to keep their people fit and healthy. I hope in the 14 years I've been out, they've improved, but from what I'm hearing, it's not much better. The military is really good at making you look good in uniform, but they're not really good at making you very healthy and fit unless you're in the upper tiers of ground combat. The basic person, they just want you looking good in the uniform. They don't care if it's killing you or making you a diabetic or starving you out. They don't. And that's an unfortunate side of the military. And I will always come down hard on the military. I actually distinctly remember one of the commandants of the Marine Corps this coming up because of the metrics they used to rate us on our physical health was not accurate in body fat percentage. And his comment was that he didn't care as long as we look good in uniforms. That's what was important to him.
Okay.
And it was one of the nails in the coffins that got me out earlier than I expected. But coming out, there's a couple different things that make it hard for people. One, yes, you have to figure it out yourself. That's actually a truth later in the upper ranks anyways. But if you came out in the lower ranks, that's something you got to realize. Two, there's actually some health findings we're starting to see. In males, its testosterone seems to drop really bad. And that's going to affect people. Male testosterone already, they claim, drops in your 30 to 35. I question if it's always been like that for humans, but at least we know it is now, and that's what's important. And it's worse for military. It's worse for people like law enforcement, paramedics. Anybody's in a high stress, high testosterone environment for long periods of time, when they come out and they're not in those environments, your testosterone drops. It plummets. So I've had that issue too. And yes, fitting it into your daily life when there's so much that is easier to do and more instantly more gratifying to do. I would much rather play a video game than work out some days. It's easy. It's right here in my room. I can excuse myself right out of the gym if I let myself. But I also know what the end result of that is now because I've been there.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that. Like, where it was your biggest, what was the turning point, and kind of what got you on this trajectory of, I'm going to go into fitness and help other people?
So getting out of the Marine Corps, I had no clue what I wanted to do with my life. I had no purpose. A lot of people feel this way. I see it all the time. I talk to vets to this day. They feel the same way. So I'm just find something that keeps them paid and keeps their family fed. I don't have a family. I didn't have that drive. For me, my absolute biggest was about 320 pounds and extremely high body fat percentage. Two events happened that kind of woke me up. One, I was at this job and they did this health survey, this health assessment for their health insurance. And when I saw the number on the scale, because I haven't been on the scale since the Marine Corps, and this was probably 5 years after, I almost got sick to my stomach and almost busted out in tears. I really did when I saw how fat I'd gotten. And at the same time, I was in a relationship, and her and I were having some real troubles. And just because of my personality type, I put that blame right on myself. I assumed that part of our problem was the fact I got so fat. She met me when I was healthy and I'd gotten fat, right? Guys, you all have heard this. You all have lived this. Most guys have lived this at least once. Don't do it. But it happens. We like to joke it's the woman nesting us by feeding us really bad foods and telling us we don't have to go to the gym. But unfortunately, it tends to weigh on us very heavily when we do this. So those two things happen. And I started getting healthier for her. I did not fall into this trend on do it for yourself. I have no problem using the outside source to get someone started. If I need to use your kids, I'll use your kids against you. I don't care. I will, because eventually what I learned is as the process goes on, it will become a source for yourself. And I think that's important. I'm not one of these people that says do everything for yourself. Sorry, I'm not quite that narcissistic, despite what our little brother says sometimes. I have no problem using other people as a motivation. I mean, honestly, I use your nephew I use my nephew right now, your son, as one of my motivations. I must be stronger than him at all times.
And his on the reverse, he's doing the same thing. I must get where my uncle goes.
Good, because eventually he's going to have to take care of me, so I need him to be strong and wealthy.
Oh, you better wait in line. I'm earned the first. I have the stretch marks for that kid.
I'm just glad you two will be gone by the time I need it, so it's okay.
Better hope so. Although, I'm going to preference, I will stay with my daughter first because she promised me a male nurse.
Okay.
Yeah, so, I mean...
Well, she also promised me a doctor wife, so we're still waiting.
I know. Well, that's between you and her, and I have no comment on that one. I think watching you come out of the Marines and seeing you get as big as you got, yes, you may have struggled in your teens, and you may have struggled because our family, we are just large. We come from... my youngest brother, Chase, has done the research. So we come from the Viking side. We are Scandinavian, Irish, and then Native American and stuff. So we have, and when I say this, it's not necessarily big bones. We have broad, big shoulders. We come from that descendant. Now, it looks great for you and Chase, because y'all are 6+. Me, on the other hand, somehow, when mom and dad prayed for a daughter, they forgot to equate weight, size, and height together. I don't know how that happened because I got my mom's height and my daddy's built. And I always say the two did not, no, it just didn't. No. I don't know what else to say, but no.
The math don't work out, huh?
It is not mathing right, that's for sure. I've always been the chubby short one, you know, and I always joke that the smallest I ever was in high school was about 89 pounds. I was really, really small. My thighs.
You were almost driving yourself sick at that point. I remember that.
I was, yeah. But my thighs still touched. No matter what I did, they were still going to touch. And at my biggest, which wasn't far from you, I was almost 300 pounds. And it's a long story, but it had a lot to do with health and children and miscarriages and almost 25 surgeries that I've had. I've been through a lot. And I don't know if you realize, but 300 pounds at 6 feet, 1, and 300 pounds at 5'2" are dramatically different. One's male,
yes,
one's female. And so it was really...
Well, males and females, we carry that fat in very different places. A great example of this is interesting. Females can have a six-pack at a higher fat percentage than males can.
Yeah, I believe that.
So for a male's abs to really show, he must be usually right around 12 down to 10% body fat. Women can get it as high as 20 to 18% body fat. That's just not fair.
Yeah.
Especially when society tells me if I don't have a six-pack, I'm fat. That's just unfair. That's wrong.
Okay, well, I don't know what to say. It's the only good thing I think about a woman, so okay.
Now, I'll give you some other stats that are really good for women's health. Statistically speaking, women gain strength faster proportional to their body weight than men.
Oh, actually, I would see that because people are always shocked. I'll go to the gym and I want to do weight, and guys will come over and start removing the 45-pound weights. And I'm like, no, leave them. They're fine. And my daughter's the same way. My daughter's a little shorter than me. She's, I think, 5 feet tall. And her and I will go work out, and the men are like, y'all are too small, which is funny because I always see these little TikToks, you know, these tiny women lifting these massive weights. So I can believe that one.
It is. So strength is proportional to your body weight. So if you're 150 and you can lift 150, that's a 1-to-1 ratio. Women actually tend to have slightly better ratios than men. That may be because lower body weight, they're not going to hit their peak as quick as men. So me at 235 pounds, I've got to lift a lot more to keep that same ratio of strength than you do.
I do have a question because
the growth is faster.
But I have noticed women tend to be not quite as strong in the upper body as we are the lower body. Is there a statistic about
correct.
that?
That's normal.
Okay.
Yep. So you'll gain strength faster when proportionate to your body weight in your legs, hips, glutes, core. Men will gain it at slightly faster in our chest, back, shoulders, arms. And if you look at evolution or God's system, it makes perfect sense, right? We kind of forget that modern man has only been modern man for about 80 years. I mean, people forget in the 1920s, we were still on horseback fighting the Native Americans.
Well, I mean, as awesome as we lived in a time when there was no internet, or cell phone.
Yeah, I know. We were born in the late 1900s. But so people got to realize it's only been about a century that we're modernized. Lord knows how long before that we were people, and we had roles and jobs, and they carried, and we did different roles in our societies and in our relationships. So the strength distributions make a lot of sense. I don't need my legs to do much than stabilize me and move me around, whether that's running, walking, or pushing against something. But to carry a shielded spear, that was a lot of strength. to hold up against it in a war or to stab an animal with a spear, that takes a lot of power from your torso. Whereas you have to carry a child, and that's in birth and after birth. You're still carrying that child.
Yeah.
But you may have also been carrying farm loads.
Yeah.
You may have been carrying whatever you foraged for. You may have been carrying the meat. And then if I die, you may have to carry what I left behind if you were nomadic.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So so it makes sense where it's distributed.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to, God created evolution so the world can maintain itself over long periods of time, which is what I believe personally, including us, so that we can change and maintain ourselves over a long period of time, right? We don't change in 100 years. We don't change in a single century what has taken 1 million to create.
So my next question is, how did being overweight affect your spiritual health?
It put it in the same place as my mental health and my physical health, in a deep, deep, dark hole in the ground. So I think genetically we suffer from depression just naturally. Our fathers talked about it recently, and I definitely get it. So I think my spiritual health, when I let my body fall apart and turn into a nice blob of chewed up bubblegum and fat, I felt physically the way I felt, which I wasn't realizing how it was. I felt the same way spiritually and mentally. It all connects. It's the Trinity, right? Just as God is a Trinity, so are we. We are a body, mind, and spirit. God is God, Jesus, the Holy Spirit. And it's like a triangle. If you take any part of this triangle and you start pulling on one corner, you're going to warp the other corners with it. And so as my body started to fall apart, or at least what I felt like was falling apart, my spirit just crumbled. My mind was deep, deep depression. And I didn't quite realize how bad it was until those two events happened. And then suddenly, like, God threw a flare down that hole I was in and said, hey, here's your chance, get up.
So physical fitness requires consistency, patience, and sometimes going through discomfort. How do these aspects reflect the spiritual pursuit of a closer relationship with Jesus?
It's similar to any relationship you develop over time. All three things must be done. Mine and your relationship, we probably have one of the best relationships I've ever seen for siblings, but it requires consistency. It requires persistence. You must persistently remind me to call you every week. I have to consistently call you every week.
Am I still on your calendar where your phone buzzes?
Yeah, it's repeating for life.
Okay.
Repeating for life.
There you go.
And then we've got to, even when it's hard to do, and I know there's events in both of our lives that keep us from making those calls, but we had that time in our relationship where it wasn't good. Or we really struggled. We loved each other, but we didn't really have a relationship with each other.
Yeah, it was mostly your fault. But yes, that's true.
Of course. It really was. I'll own it. So we had to crawl back and make that happen. It's the same way in fitness. You'll have ups and downs. You try to be as consistent as possible, but unfortunately life happens, injuries happen, things happen, the gym gets shut down because of a tornado, whatever, things happen. But consistency is valuable. Consistency will get you further in fitness and in life than anything. You talk to anybody financially that's been extremely successful, what will they tell you? They consistently pushed forward and reached for their goals. I like the saying that the most successful people the only reason the difference is they have failed more than you've tried. And the gym, it's similar. You will fail. You should fail more than you'll succeed. Give an example. If you're progressively overloading, which is how you build muscle, what does that mean? My goal is 12 reps. Then if I hit 12 reps, I needed to up my weight. I should have failed at 11 or 10. My failure should be under that.
Okay, well now I feel good.
And when I succeed, what do? I up my weight so I continue to fail.
Uh-huh. So
just like in the gym, you're going to fail more than you succeed. It's just those PRs, as we call them in the gyms, those personal records. They feel so good. You keep going. Life and relationships are the same. You and I, we went through a lot of failures in life, and we have pushed past those. When you have a relationship with God, you will fail God every single day. That's the unfortunate truth. That's one of the things that makes us so unworthy of God, is we will fail Him more than we ever try.
That's what grace is all about.
But it's those moments when everything comes together just right, when your blessings and your persistence and you're just working at it comes together, it makes it all worth it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Next question is, how does the joy of exercise become the joy in Christ?
One of it for me is I've seen what God has created in my body and what I'm capable of that I never thought I could.
Even when you were in the military?
Yeah, I never thought I could run a half marathon.
Okay.
You crazy? I thought that was out of your. We once ran a 12-mile run in the hills of Okinawa. I never thought that was possible. I was rock climbing 3-4 days a week like I'd never done and been able to do things I never did before. Now, at the time, I didn't realize, I didn't connect this all together. It wasn't until I was old and wise, which I'm still working on, but I'm getting closer. I'm trying to creep up there, but I'm trying to catch you up in some of these platinums.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm starting to get a few of them.
It's not my wallet I got to worry about. But no, like, when I look back now, retrospect's 2020, and I can see that I've done things in the military physically I never thought possible. And even now that I'm 40, I've achieved things at 40 I definitely didn't think was possible. And I keep achieving things.
Yeah.
And every day I achieve these things is because God blessed me with a body that was capable of doing this. God blessed all of us with a physical body that is capable of things we never did.
Yeah.
How many miracles have you seen as a paramedic?
Tons, and I always think about one of my really good friends, Michael, who is got cerebral palsy, and he's in a wheelchair, and long story, but they said he was adopted at 12, and they said he probably wouldn't live until he was in his 20s, maybe at max, and he is 45 years old. He'll be 46 this year, and they said he'd have all these. He wouldn't be very tall. He wouldn't be a big guy. He is like 6'4". He's a huge dude. And yes, he has health issues. Yes, he has limitations. But the things they said about him versus the things that he actually can do is dramatically different. And the same thing with my son, Matthias, who is 17 and big boy. They said that, first of all, he was never supposed to be born. They asked me to abort him multiple times. They said he was going to be physically and mentally retarded. He is far from that. Maybe a little goofy, but he's a smart, wonderful kid, and he swims, and he's an A student, and I am always amazed. Like, God just shows me all the time that I think this and he's this, and he's so much bigger, and he can do so much more through us, especially when we allow him to do things through us.
And look at our baby brother too. He was similar.
Same thing.
Mom was told that he was going to be mentally retarded, that he was going to be disfigured and deformed, and he definitely didn't get my good looks or my charm, but he has done amazing.
He's the one that's
don't let him see this.
He's going to get married before you do.
Yeah, I know. Don't let him see this, because I don't want him to hear this, but he might be one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life.
Oh, it's so funny. So I have to tell this joke. I remember, I don't know, he had to been maybe 13, 14 years old. So that means you, 18, 19? And I had we went to the lake, we were swimming in the lake, and And it's like he had just shot up. He went through a massive growth spurt that year. And I was swimming in the lake with him, and I said, should I still pick on you? And he just, without any hesitation, he just looks at me, and he had that deep voice because he had just gotten, the crackling male voice coming in, and he goes, nah, he knows better now. I've never forgotten it. But it just cracked me up because he's the biggest out of all of us. And he was the one that, quote unquote, was not even supposed to be. And yes, he has a massive head. He's like a size 13 hat. He's ginormous head. And I would agree with you. He is, if he's not the smartest, he is definitely the most, how can I say this? He is the one that seeks
intellectually
knowledge.
Driven.
Yes, he is intellectually driven. He seeks knowledge like no one I've ever known. And he is severely dyslexic. He was in special schools. Like everything you would have ever thought about him as a kid, he is completely redone. I mean, he writes novels now, and it is quite amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It reminds me of what's the story of the blind man with Jesus? And they asked Jesus, what did this man ever do? Was it his father's sins, or was it his sins that made God make him born blind? And Jesus said no, and he heals the blind man. It basically says, hey, it's because this gives God an opportunity to show his presence in your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and it's one of those things like...
And he's done that in abundance in our family. In abundance.
He has.
Yeah.
I did not understand this till much, much later in life, that he was God's miracle to show us all that God is there.
Yeah. Yeah. And then he continued with my kids, and yeah.
And now he's become a little arrogant and stubborn and drives us all nuts. And
that's your fault. He gets up from you. Yeah. He's how, usually most kids, their parents go, I hope you have a kid just like you. No. Hear me, people. I have a kid like both my brothers. I don't know how this happened. I don't know what my parents prayed, but I didn't get one like me. No, I got them like you two, you and Chase.
Whatever. Shina's just like you.
Actually, William would tell you Matthias is more like me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Shauna's, I think, a little bit more like her dad. She's just stubborn like me, but that's probably both of us, too.
And a drama queen. And a drama queen like you and Mom.
Oh, I'm going to let Mama know that one. All right, next question. Did I ask this question? How does the joy of exercise become the joy in God?
So I think I kind of answered that anyways. I think that's why you asked if you answered it. It's because exercise is as you see yourself growing in your fitness journey, whatever those goals may be, whatever they are, you're doing it. You're growing in this joy because it's one of those things like, I'll take runners as an example. Nothing moves slower in fitness than trying to be a faster runner. I think it was Usain Bolt, the fastest man in the world, that once said it took him 5 years to knock 1/10 of a second off his run time. And running, you'll have peaks where you'll skyrocket, and then you'll just plateau for what feels like half a lifetime. Your relationship with God can be very similar to this, but the fact that you can still progress and be better is what's a miracle of God. And I think we as people, we really got to start acknowledging that every day I go to the gym because I want to be stronger tomorrow than I am today. And I know I'm stronger today than I was yesterday. And that is just like my relationship with God and the joy I get with God. Is every day I sit there and have my long conversations with God. And I know this brings me closer to Him, even in the times I don't feel it. Even in the times it seems like I'm talking to nothing. And sometimes I'll even doubt it. Just like at the gym, I'll doubt if this is really worth it. And then something happens. Something crazy happens. Like I sent you a text. That crazy things that happen that God's just say, hey, I'm still here.
Mm-hmm.
and I'm proud of you.
Yeah. So last night I had 8 kids over. So some in college, first year in college, some in high school. And we were all talking, and I had asked them about their relationship with God. And every one of them, in one way or another, had said that it wasn't always joyful. A lot of times it started out as mom and dad are making me. This is a chore. This is not something I want to do. Now, it eventually came to that point because as they got older, they began to figure out, I got to figure out how this relationship with God, is it mine or is it just something that I'm being forced to do? And so they had to wrestle through what the scripture says. They had to work out their own salvation and figure out where it was. The parents laid the foundation, but at the end of the day, it's their relationship with God. And so I kind of see that the same as the gym. You know, I don't always want to go. It's not always joyful. I make really good excuses for not going there. I was told you the story of I've went to the gym. Our mom likes to talk a lot. And so I know if I call her, I'm going to be on the phone a minimum of 45 minutes, maybe an hour and a half on a good day. And I've gone to the gym. I've sat in the parking lot going, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this today. And I'll just pick up the phone and call mom. And I'm like, hey, mom, I want to talk. And then somehow after an hour and a half, because I'm on the schedule, you know, I've justified it in my head while I went to the gym.
See, now I get to have a talk with mom about this and get her to ask you, are you in the gym parking lot? Because if so, I'm not talking to you.
Yeah, because I haven't done it a ton, but I have done it once or twice. And then I come home and William's like, how was the gym? I'm like, oh, it was great today. Because I talked to mom for an hour.
I think I would classify myself as a gym guy. I love going to the gym, but here's the truth. And everybody I know, whether they're bodybuilders, strongman, anybody, well, I'm sure they can agree with me. I go to the gym 6 days a week. I'd say 3 or 4 of those, I don't want to go. I can't, and I struggle sometimes getting myself moving and going. And it's actually easier to make this excuse because now I'm not really paying for the gym. I'm using the school's got a gym. Whereas when I was paying $1,000 a year for a gym, I had that excuse a lot less because I could always use I'm paying $1,000 a year for a gym. Let me get to the gym. That's why I always tell people stop trying to find cheap gyms. Huh? Find a gym that doesn't break the bank, but hurts just a little bit.
Makes it a little uncomfortable.
just a little. Just make it just expensive enough that you're like, that you cringe at the thought of spending the money every month. Because then you when you're going, I really don't want to go. You'll be like, but I'm spending this money. I need to get there and get this money's worth.
Yeah,
it's a nice trick. But I always tell people this, like that's the fault. That's the downfall of motivation is when you don't have it, you don't do it. And this is where discipline comes in. Discipline, I'm going to use a Mike Tyson quote. Discipline is doing what you hate, like you love it. And there's days I hate going to the gym. And what's fascinating is it usually disappears after I get started. Usually once I get rolling and I'm usually at least 1 or 2 exercises in, I'm there, I'm happy, I'm enjoying it. I'm seeing progress. And honestly, the crazy thing is the days I don't want to go are the days I see the biggest progress.
Isn't it funny how that works? Same thing with church. Sometimes the days you don't want to go and you go and you're like, man, that was a blessing. I need to be there that day. Yeah. So
there's days when I'm like, I don't want to pray tonight. I just want to go to bed because I'm tired. And maybe I won't pray that. Maybe that's one of those rare nights I won't pray. And then the next day something happens and I'm like, man, I should have prayed because this is a blessing. And I kind of threw my relationship aside for it. Let me get back and pray a little extra today. So yeah.
You gave me 2 tips on the days that I don't feel the joy, but still I need to go. So what were those tips that you gave us earlier?
So, 1, have a goal. So the studies show that there's 2. The goal that will not be successful is progress-based fitness goals. So say something arbitrary like For you, may be able to bench press 135 pounds, right? So, but here's my argument. Whereas an easier goal to achieve is go to the gym 3 days a week. Those are the goals that are successful. Here's my argument against it. I believe the studies. I believe they're completely correct. The first goal, a performance-based goal, is easier to fail. The emotional-based goal of just go to the gym is much easier to succeed. Part of the reason is because of that. One's hard, one's easy. I think what we really got to get out of is this idea that failure is bad. Once heard a very wealthy man say the only difference between a successful person and a person who is not successful is the successful person has failed more times than they have tried. Failure is not the negative thing. Anybody that goes to the gym understands if you really think about it, you fail more than you succeed, right? So that's the big thing. Set a performance-based goal. Set an emotional-based goal. Set 2 goals. Make it realistic. Put it in a timely manner. And have some accountability to that goal. Set the emotional-based goal that's very easy to achieve, that you can ride that coattail all the way to your performance-based goal. And track your data. Have a plan, track your data. I use an app for anybody that wants to use it. It's called Strong. Could be any simpler. It lets me see my workouts, so I have a plan. Every time I walk into the gym, do not go in there and just willy-nilly and fill it through. If you can't make the plan, find someone who can. Hire the trainer. They're worth every penny, a good one. Track the data. And so when you see the plan, you know exactly what you're going to do. You have an idea exactly how long it's going to take. But you can also say, I'm just not feeling my chest day, but I look at what I did last week. And deep down inside, you look at the data and you go, you know what, I'm going to do better this week today. Today's going to be better than this was last week. I'm going to be stronger coming out of it in some way, shape, or form. And it's those little things like that that can really push you forward. And yeah, having some accountability too. Have somebody you can call not to help you make the excuse.
Well, on her defense, she doesn't know. I don't tell her.
She does it. I know this. It's okay. But also have someone that be like, hey, I just don't feel like it. And they can slap you on the booty and tell you to get in there.
That's why I call her and not
Those are
you,
some tricks.
by the way.
Yeah, exactly. I'd be like, call me after the gym, click.
He would too. Like, no hesitation there. He would definitely do that. So my next question is this. How do you incorporate prayer and meditation in your time when you're doing fitness routine? Sorry.
Okay. Every time I'm heavy squatting or heavy deadlifting, dear God, please don't let me poop my pants while I'm squatting this. Especially if there's a pretty girl somewhere around me. I don't want to poop my pants. Dear God, please don't let this weight crush me. It definitely feels like it.
I really want to know how many weightlifting guys have done that as a gym.
I bet you there's I know some girls that have done it too. Thank you.
Or at least tooted. Big old part.
Everybody's farted. I call it the little booster.
I have never done it yet. Not saying I won't.
You're not lifting heavy enough in this. All that means.
I don't know if that's a qualification. I'm pretty sure they love that now.
So I don't necessarily pray or meditate in the sense of I'll have conversations with God. And this is kind of my practice in general. Is I don't really look at God as an idol to worship. I look at him as my father to worship. And it's just like my real father, when I call him, I have a conversation. Sometimes I'm just saying, hey, what's up? And other times I'm seeking his guidance. And, well, with our real father, sometimes he's seeking mine, which feels weird. But I let it roll. But I do.
And I seek his correction. I think that's a big one, too, is a lot of times.
Often, yes. Yeah. Yes.
And I think that comes with maturity in your faith.
Yeah, a lot of times with me, it's just saying, I have no clue if I'm on the right path. Please let me know. But I have conversations with them. And I find that for me, the gym, it tends to be, some days I have some really severe emotional roller coasters. I'll be poppy, jumpy, happy, like a little 5-year-old girl just skipping around the gym, having fun. And for no reason whatsoever, I don't know if it's a hormonal thing or something, I'll just plummet into some depression. So, the memory hits me, a thought hits me, and I get down and I really start to brew on it. And I'm finding myself more and more when I fall into that pit. I'm not leaving the gym, I know that, because I know the gym's going to help me get out of it. But I'm finding myself having that conversation with God and being like, what's going on? A lot of times for me, am I doing the right thing? So I do find myself doing that probably almost every time I'm in the gym now. But also, just I think generally I try to do that more with lately.
Yeah,
just have those conversations.
It's funny because we were raised to have a conversation with God. That definitely came from our father. But I always tell people I am so thankful for Bluetooth because I am a verbal communicator. I just talk. I would talk to myself. I would talk to myself to sleep as a child. Shut up! Don't make a comment on this one. And you never know where I'm at. You never have to wonder where I'm at. You know. I tell people, you will know if I'm mad. You will know if I'm happy. I am very verbal, and that's the same thing. So before Bluetooth, though, I would have conversations with God in the car, and I was convinced people just would drive by and think that I was crazy. And then Bluetooth came along, and I was like, yes, now people think I'm on the Bluetooth all the time. Because I just talk out loud to him. And I don't know about you, but I can't wait for you to have that experience in the gym. I am passing that along to you. You just start to randomly talking out loud to God in the gym. People are going to be looking at you like this.
I think there's definitely been some lifting moments where they hear me go, dear God, let me get this up.
All right. So my next question is this. Can you discuss a time when physical fitness helped you overcome a spiritual obstacle?
I think the biggest spiritual obstacle I've had that I can really think of is just losing my faith.
Explain.
And I wish I lost my faith. I mean, especially in my 20s.
Okay.
I fell down the rabbit hole that our culture has taught us. Your 20s is supposed to be fun and enjoyable, and you're supposed to enjoy your youth and just go party and have a good time. And I did.
There'll be no repercussions.
Yeah, it'd be great. You can fix it when you're 30. It's cool. And I did in multiple countries with a lot of people. I had a great 20s. I really did. I'm not going to lie. And I'm completely paying the price right now. The truth is that also took me further away from God than I've ever been. Because it was easy.
Yeah. Which is funny
sex,
because
drugs, alcohol.
When you were saying earlier that we had some really hard times in our life, sibling-wise, our relationship, that's the time that we were struggling the most.
Same time.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's easy. Sex,
you didn't
drugs,
just pull
alcohol,
away from God.
all that stuff is easy.
Yeah. You didn't just pull away from God.
Pull away from everybody.
Pulled away from everybody. And that was really hard for me because you and I have always been really close. I mean, I've been close to both my brothers, but there's only 5 years between the two of us. And I prayed at 5 years old. I wanted a brother. I didn't want a sister. I wanted a little brother. And so when you came home, to this day, I can tell you exactly the day Mom put you in my arms. I was sitting on a brown plaid couch. I had a little plaid red blanket. I don't know why I remember that, but Mom put you in my arms, and I was just like, finally, my baby has arrived. And you were mine. So when you pulled away, it was really hard on me.
And then you got in trouble for taking me to a show and tell.
Yeah, I tried really hard, very, very hard to take you everywhere. They just wouldn't let you on that school bus. I don't know why. But
it's
yeah,
weird,
right? You did. You pulled away from everyone.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest advice I've given, especially because where I'm at now, I'm around a lot of young 20s. I'm at a college, even the job I've got right now, it's a lot of younger people. And the biggest advice if I'm asked, I don't throw this advice out just willy-nilly, but if I'm ever asked, I always tell them the biggest advice I can tell you is don't believe our society. They're lying to you. The 20s is not there for you to have fun. It's there for you to build something, build your relationships. And one of those relationships needs to be your relationship with God. The truth is, you don't want to sit here and think, hey, I can wait till I'm 30 and then start going to church and be forgiven for all the sins I did in my 20s. You may not survive it. I've got some very dear friends who did not survive to their 30s. And it was just not because of war. In fact, I've lost more of my friends in my 20s to drugs and alcohol than I did to war.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And suicide. We had a lot because of the drug and because of the alcohol that committed suicide. All three of us know quite a few people.
And I'll even go to say the drugs and alcohol were suicide.
Yeah.
For a lot of them.
Yeah.
It was just a very slow suicide.
Yeah.
So that's not what it's for. But I didn't know that. I fell for the trick. I'm not so smart and intelligent that I didn't fall for all the cultural lies.
Yeah. Well, the devil is the devil of the world. He's the king of lies.
And it got me, not only did it destroy my relationship, did it damage my relationship with you, Mom, Dad, Chase. Although I did call Chase one time from Japan and ask him for a ride, so at least I wasn't driving drunk. And our brother, being our brother, told me he was on the way. That was an awkward waking up in the bank grass.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
But but it damaged my relationship with God. It damaged my body. I'm still not recovered. I still have problems. I still have things that the damage was caused by me enjoying and having a great 20s. Yeah, I've got a lot of experiences. I can tell you stories that probably nobody else can tell you. I've been in countries that you probably haven't even heard of and seen things most people haven't. But I paid the price for all that. And it wasn't all good. I would definitely give some of those experiences up for just a few extra years of a good relationship with you guys, the family, you, and God. Yeah, so that was part of how I got over a lot of that relationship with God was when I started getting fit and healthy again. My relationship with God slowly rekindled. And like we've talked before, it wasn't a flare-up. It was a slow burning. It was a slow, gradual spark and a slow burn. Just kind of happened over time, and it was just kind of all of a sudden, boom, I blink and there's fire next to me, and it's God.
Yeah. So what advice would you give someone who is struggling to maintain their physical health and feels distant from their faith or spirituality? How can they start to kind of integrate both aspects into their lives?
So I'm coming at the Christian church on this one. The Christian church has failed Christians and the fact that they do not teach this enough. 1 Corinthians chapter 6, 19 through 20. You know not that your body is a temple or sanctuary of the Holy Spirit within you, whom you have from God, and that you are not your own. For you have been bought for a price, and therefore glorify your God in your body. And then 1 Corinthians chapter 10, 31, therefore, whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, all things for the glory of God. Somehow, at some point in our Christian society, we have decided that we can ignore the body because of the Spirit, and that the body means nothing, so we can destroy it. How many times has anybody walked into a church, and I'll guarantee you, a huge proportion of that church is overweight and obese, if not just straight obese. Walking on, can't hardly walk, can't hardly move, crutching, needing help all the time. God gifted us these bodies. These are the bodies He gave us. This is our opportunity. And how disrespectful is it of us to destroy the temple God gave, the first temple He gave us, which was us? We're completely disrespecting Him. We're showing Him that we're not really that grateful for this opportunity. But I don't mind us necessarily decorating it. I'm not one of those that believes tattoos are terrible or piercings. Hey, decorate the church. Show me a church that's not decorated. it's hypocritical for someone to say, hey, I've got stained glass windows and $1 million in wood in my church, but you shouldn't put a tattoo on your body that glorifies God, or it glorifies your experience on this world. So decorate your temple, but take care of it. Take care of your temple. This is it. Because if every building in this world is still torn down, if our government decides that Christianity is illegal and tears all the churches down, this is the temple of God. And I try to glorify God and to be an example of Jesus and God with this.
Yeah, it's funny. I had the honor and the privilege of being at a speaking event and being one of the speakers last year or the year before, I can't remember which. And
they all blend together at this age.
Do. And this was the scripture that I was speaking on, and I was talking about the 4 pillars that we are the temple of God, that our bodies is where the Holy Spirit dwells. And I think what we tend to really forget and we don't emphasize enough is it came at a cost. It came at a cost, and that cost was Jesus Christ on the cross. In order for us to have the Holy Spirit dwelling in us, he had to first go and suffer for us. And he had to die on a cross for us to be able to have our sins forgiven. He had to raise from the dead 3 days later. And then the Holy Spirit came and was able to dwell in each and every one of us. And we can't forget that cost. And the purpose of it is a heavenly purpose. We all, as followers of Christ and those that have a relationship with Christ, we have a heavenly purpose. This is not our home. Heaven is our home. And we're left here to share that. And you can't do that if like you said, it's not being taken care of. And it all looks different. Like I said, I have a friend that's in a wheelchair. He's never going to go overseas to a third world country because of his limitations. He's just not able to do that. But yet he still has a purpose, and he still has to take care of his body, and he still has to take care of what God has given him in order to fulfill his purpose. And believe me, if you know Michael, and I think you can agree, if you know Michael, it only takes you to meet him for 5 minutes, and you realize he has a very heavenly purpose here on earth. There is a reason why God has kept him so late into his 40s here on this world. And I love listening to him because he always says, I can't wait till I get to heaven and get my legs. He has legs, but they don't work. And him and I had the privilege of going to the prom in high school. I've known him since middle school, and we went to the prom together and we danced. And I remember, I'll never forget it, because I was sitting on his lap in the wheelchair and he was spinning around. And he said, one day I'll be able to dance with you in heaven, Jandy. And he's right. And I look forward to that day. But all of us have that, and we can't forget it. And you are right. The church is not doing a very good job on teaching us to take care of our bodies. And like I said,
look at our examples in the church. Yeah. Look at the pulpit. Are they? I'll never forget. And I should not have been the way I was in my 20s, but I remember in my 20s, one of those Christians trying to preach and talk to people on the corner of the street, and the person was huffing and puffing when they stood up in a chair. They were so obese, and I threw this at him because I remember this. I remember this really young, and I looked at him and I was like, "Your body is the first temple that God ever gave you, and look how you're treating it. Why should I take you serious?" It's like you can't even respect. You're such a Christian. You're disrespecting the first temple he gave you. Why would I listen to you?
And like I said, we're all in all of this. Health and our relationship with God is a journey. We're all at different parts of that journey. Someone may be at the very beginning of their journey, and they are 500 pounds, and they do have a lot of wisdom in relationship with God, but they're just getting to the point where they can get up and walk. And
yes, and I agree. Like I said, I should not have been that way in my 20s about it, but it was one of those ways when I had fallen from my faith, and the pro of being raised in the church is it was easy to come back to my faith. The con of being raised in the church is it was really easy to slap people in the face with it.
Yes.
Especially people that have the arrogance to think they are the experts in it. And then they don't appreciate being humbled by someone who wasn't a Christian at the time. And those are the most dangerous Christians in my book right there, the ones who are arrogant about their knowledge in God. Yeah. But it's one of those things where we're all in different stages in our journeys. How much further along would I be had I never gotten unhealthy?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Well,
I could be. But at the same time, maybe I would have never got to where I am had I not got unhealthy in the first place. Maybe I would have always been at a limited position.
Yeah.
The same can be true for my relationship with God. I don't know. Who knows if I would have had such a good, now a much better relationship with God had I not lost my faith first.
Yeah. I think we've all struggled with our faith at one time or another, as well as struggling with, even the most fittest and healthiest person I know has still had a moment in their life where they've struggled. Yeah. It's never easy. It's a journey.
I still have them.
It's not a sprint.
No, it's definitely not a sprint. This is a cross-country run for your life. Yep. Look, we're all going to struggle. I still have struggles. I've been on this since I was 31 years old. It's 9 years now, going on 10, since I got obese and lost it. And I still have, I'll have weeks here and there where it's hard to go to the gym, and sometimes I skip and I don't go, and I'll make excuses, and sometimes I'll let a little ache and pretend, this is actually an injury. Let me not go so I don't get injured worse. And then sometimes I really get injured and I have to take a break. And now that doesn't mean just because if I injure my bicep, I can still work out my legs. There are things I can still do, and I don't do them. We all have. Sometimes I'll order a large pizza and eat the whole pizza. And sometimes I'll get an ice cream twice a month instead of my once a month usually. We all have we all fall. We all have it. And it's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. You're not going to, if you get on your journey of really being healthy and fit, that one large pizza is not going to derail you.
Right.
It's okay.
It's just like that one week where you don't pray. It's okay.
Yeah, God's not going to just throw you off out into the void because you didn't pray today. It's okay. It's okay. And I think that's really where we got to get at. I was thinking about this, and I saw this video, girl singing this beautiful song about her life right now. She had a gorgeous voice, and it was such a stupid song. The lyrics were just dumb. And it wasn't dumb. I shouldn't say that. It was youthfully naive. Because she said that there's this one part in the song, if I ever find it again, I'll share it with you, where she says, she goes, I have more F's than W's. And I'm sitting here listening to it because she feels like she did everything society told her to. She went to college. She did all this stuff. And she just feels like she's failing. And there's a part of me that goes, yeah, that's how life works.
What's the W?
I was like, win.
Oh.
She has more F's, failures than wins.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, that's life. If you always won, how empty would a win feel?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Did you ever hear the story on how Michael Jordan got so good at playing basketball?
No.
Okay, I think it was Michael Jordan. There's a story. A new player comes up and says, hey, he goes, how do I get as good as you? And Michael Jordan goes, how many times do you shoot every day? He goes, I shoot 1,000 times every day. I shoot it until I hit 1,000 buckets, until I score 1,000 times. He goes, I shoot until I miss 1,000 times. So when you lift, progressive overload, right? So this means you are slowly trying to overload your muscles progressively so they get larger, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So you set a goal for 12 reps. Well, and let's say you got 4 sets, if you hit your 12th rep on your 4th set, you weren't aiming high enough. You should have failed. But if you hit 10 or 11, you're at the right spot. And then when you hit 12, you up the goal, right? So you've got to fail before you succeed and can move up to another position. Well, the stronger you get, that time frame is greater. So whereas it may take me on certain exercises, I may be able to go up routinely 5 pounds every week for 3 months, and then all of a sudden it may take me 4 months to go up another 5 pounds. That's normal.
Yeah.
And I'll spend 4 months failing every single week, sometimes twice a week.
Yeah.
I'll fail and fail and fail until I'm able to get to that win. That's how life is. That's really, and how many times does the Bible talk about how many of God's saints failed before they ever achieved
all
anything?
of them.
Anything. Even if they had achieved a lot before they really started becoming one of God's disciples, they failed after.
Yeah. I think that's what I love about Christianity is God doesn't hide the failures. You know, everyone, when people are critical of Scripture and people are critical of the Bible, I'm like, you know, if God wanted to whitewash this, he could have. But he put even the best, Moses, David, and, you know, Matthew, Luke, Mark, Paul, all of them, they all have their failures in there. They do not hide any of them. And I think that that's what's so authentic about this Lord and Savior that we have, is he lets people know, like, I don't need you to be perfect. I need you to have a relationship, and I need you to be available. And I need you to be willing to go on this race with us. Like,
well, look at of all his disciples, look how many spent their whole life failing before they met him, and failed while they were with him. And look how many failed while they were with him. And who's still in heaven with him right now?
Yeah.
Right. So, and like I mean, I got a friend of mine who, he was a gang member and a felon. That's 30 years of his life that he failed. He will admit to it. He failed. He spent the time in prison. He did everything wrong. Now he's a Christian and a very wealthy man. Well, he's got a family. He's got a son, 2 amazing daughters. He's got multiple homes. He's running a very successful business that's helping people and reaching out to people. He talks about God all the time.
Yeah. So one of the things that I wanted to know is how did God get you to the point where you realize that I'm on this journey of being physically fit, but now I want to take it and I want to help other people with it?
Dad.
Okay, explain.
So if you remember, I did that competition and Dad came to support me.
Mm-hmm.
And
I remember, but you have to tell other people about it.
Okay. Well, so I ran a fitness competition, and Dad was there supporting me, and it was between events, and I looked at Dad and I was like, why don't you run it? There's a division for older people. And as Dad goes, no, I'm way too old, this old fat dude that looked like Santa Claus in tactical gear goes running by us. And I look at Dad and go, you were saying? And then I show him some pictures from their Instagram of a guy who was 3 or 4 years older than him that runs it every single year. And then Dad came to me and he goes, well, why don't you help me do this? And I decided, and I did. And I think he's done an incredible job at 70 years old.
Yeah.
He looks great. It's just amazing what he's achieved. And so I realized I do really enjoy helping people get healthy and fit. And it's a challenge because it's not a journey that you're going to get satisfaction out of right away. Yeah. And I think any personal trainer would tell you you don't, because they're not going to see their progress right away. So you're not going to get that satisfaction right away. Mm-hmm. You will see it, but you won't just see it physically. Like if you do progress photos, which you should, if you're a client of a trainer, do progress photos. you'll see in the photos first before, because the mirror's a liar.
Right.
He lies to me every day, except for the mirror at the gym. I don't know what magic they have at that gym mirror, but it's amazing.
It's the same scale. I love my personal scale and really hate everyone else's.
Except for the plasma donation, they can keep those off. They can keep those messed up because they weigh me really heavy.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I get paid more if I'm heavier.
Oh, okay. Didn't know that.
Because I can donate more, or I can sell more. But anyway, no. So it's one of those things. It teaches you that the greatest satisfactions of life are not immediate. They ride the coattails of pain and suffering. So, you see that with clients when you're working with them. And I watched it with my father, and I've watched it with some other people. And now our cousin, he's doing it too. And I helped him get started. And it's part of the reason why I decided to take it up a notch and get an actual formal education on some of these topics. Because I see the difference it really can make, not just physically, but mentally. I see the difference it can make spiritually. I really do see it.
Yeah.
And but like I said, you will not see this tomorrow. You will not see this in a week. You will not see it in 3 months. You may see a little bit in 6 months, but you'll really see a difference in a year.
Yeah.
You give yourself 100 days, you'll see a huge difference.
I know for me, and I started back in 2015, and if you follow me any length of time on social media or anything, you also know I'm often on camera as well, working on a show. And so in 2015, I went into early menopause. Like I said, I've had roughly almost 25 surgeries trying to have children. I've been pregnant 10 times, had the honor of raising 2 children, China and Matthias. And we buried one in 2009, our son Malachi. And I've had multiple miscarriages. So my body has been through a lot that when you're a little girl holding a baby doll, hoping to be a mom one day, no one tells you the potential of all the things that go wrong. And I got, like I said, almost up to 300 pounds for multiple reasons. It wasn't all pregnancy. Some of it was bedridden after surgeries. I mean, my son, I was pregnant with him and I lived 4 months in a hospital room. Limited exercise. There's just not a lot you can do in the hospital when you're bedridden. So it was just a journey for me. And in 2015, I realized I could no longer have kids. It took me into early menopause. And so that potential was just gone. And in my mind, for some reason, God had given me, when I knew I had no longer the opportunity of being a mom, it was almost like God woke me up and said, okay, it's time for you to start living for me as a woman. A little different. I was living for the Lord, and part of that meant getting healthy. And I started slowly working on losing the weight. And it has been a very slow journey. And it's never clicked to me until like last year when I was giving actually when I had the honor of being a speaker and talking about 1 Corinthians 6:19-20. And I started looking it up, and my friend, I was talking to her about it. And I'm like, who am I to talk about this? Like, I'm not skinny. I'm not a fit guru. Why would they even ask me to talk about health and fitness? I'm the last person on the earth. And she was like, Chidi, do you not realize how much you've changed? And I'm like, no, I really had not. And put together a picture. And I'll share it if you're on social media or if you're on YouTube channel and you see the video, you'll see it. But it was just a picture of me in 2012, me in 2000 and I don't know, like 2012, 2000, probably 16 or 17, and then that year. It's the very first time I'd ever realized I had lost weight.
No, I completely get that. Yeah. You'll actually never see photos of me at my fattest. I didn't have any taken.
Yeah. It didn't click to me because, like you said, I look in the mirror and I still see all the problems. I see all,
I still see
I
it.
see all the issues. And I, like I said, I preferenced this at the very beginning. I am nowhere near, I still need to lose another 50 to 60 pounds. And I'm still never going to be, quote unquote, the weight the doctors think I should be. But I know where I am healthy wise. I know what's good for me. And it's just, man, it takes a lot. It takes a lot for me to be able to look in the mirror and go, okay, Chandy, you're not where you want to be, but you're still doing the journey. You're still going through the walk.
Short goal it, right?
Yeah.
So the short emotional goal is really easy to deal with. Are you stronger and better today than you were yesterday?
Well, no, because I injured myself, but that's not a good example.
Doesn't matter. Okay. No, it's still a good example. Did you do a little bit on your treadmill today?
I did do a little, not today, but I did yesterday. Today's my day off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then you're healing and recovering today. You're still going to be stronger than you were yesterday, whether that's physical, mental, or spiritual. Yeah. Sometimes all three. Yeah. So today's a rest day. I didn't go to the gym, but my body's healing. It's producing more muscle fibers, or bigger muscle fibers and stronger muscle fibers. It's changing them. It's healing my joints. I'm still stronger today because of what I do, right? So it's the short goal. Like, yes, when I look in the mirror, as one of my t-shirts says, I'm fueled by body dysmorphia. I still see.
I need that t-shirt.
300. I'll send you a picture of it. I still see that person who is 320 pounds very often. Some days, the Lord blesses me with some truth, and I see what I really look like. I joke, the mirrors at the gym, they have a dark tint to them, so your shadows pop a little bit more. It's something they put on the mirrors, and you look great when you got a good muscle pump going.
Wow.
So I like their mirrors. It's really interesting. If you go on my Instagram, you'll see a calf picture, and it's through those mirrors. My calves do not look like that any other time, just in those mirrors. But it's one of those things, like, the mirror is a very deceptive thing because, and we actually know this scientifically to be true, our brains see what we think we look like, just like they hear what we think we sound like. Mm-hmm. When you hear this video of me, you're not, the Chad you're hearing is not the Chad I hear. Mm-hmm. When you see this video of me, the Chad you're seeing is not the Chad I see. I see something totally different. And they've had artists do these sketches and have someone. So I'll go in and the person would go in and describe themselves to the artist.
Dove commercials, I've seen those. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you can actually find the whole video online, mm-hmm. and then another person comes in and describes that person and them. And when they see the two pictures, it can be heartbreaking. Okay. We don't see it, and this is why when I was training and helping people, I always say, take progress photos. Mm-hmm. Because it can't lie. Yeah. Because your brain is not able to.
And don't Photoshop.
It doesn't separate those. Yeah, don't Photoshop them. But it doesn't. Your brain will disconnect that's you. It will not see it. So it will show you a better version of yourself, especially if you look at them over long periods of time. And these are little things they do. And on the reverse, if you're failing, it will show that too.
Okay. Yeah.
You'll see, hey, okay. I'm slipping. I got a little pudge on the belly.
Yeah.
Let me get my diet back in check.
Yeah.
Okay, I've been like my lifestyle is getting a little too gluttonous, a little too friend. Let's get some discipline back in there. It happens.
Yeah.
And those failures are important lessons. They're very important.
Well, I want to end because we're hitting a good bit of time on this one, and we're definitely going to have you come back on because I know. I still have a ton of questions, and so I know other people are going to have questions. But just an encouraging word. What would you end this with and encourage people, not just on their physical, but their spiritual and physical? How would you end it for them?
You are so much more capable than you think you are. But you'll never find that true peak of what you're capable of doing, whether it's through God or your body, unless you get out there and work. I
think that's perfect ending. All right. Well, thank you. I love you too. And guys, again, please like, share, hit all the buttons. But more importantly, just become part of the community and get just get involved. Ask us questions. Let Chad know if you have any fitness questions for you. He's, like I said, he's going to school for it. He's getting into it, and he's been on this journey for 9 years. So he's got a little bit more wisdom than a lot of people do. And I just want to thank you and say we will see you guys next week. Talk to you later.